Hello, welcome to the May video chat. This is another one of those where I kind of wish I got my timing better because I highly suspect less than 24 hours away from finishing the next video. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you know, there'll probably be another video up, new game dungeon, another 24 hours. This is going to be the follow-up episode, the second one. There's just so many pieces to that. These take forever. And unlike some of the other videos, I think it's not as worth it as some of the other ones. But for announcements, after the next game dungeon is done, also there's a bonus video coming after that. Then I'm gonna get started on Freeman's Mind. Barring some sort of catastrophe, you can expect a new Freeman's Mind this month. What else? See. Yeah, I'll try and have another play session with fans in Unreal Tournament 2004. I'm hoping to have some custom maps. I'll try and have an announcement about that maybe a week ahead of time. Again, all the dates will be in the description of the YouTube video, so I can figure it out later. I think that's all I have planned. Let's see. Oh, no. I'm going to try and get... It may or may not happen this month, but after the next Freeman's Mind... I do plan to start slowing down on game dungeon episodes to make more room for Freeman's Mind in the movie. But there's one episode I've been wanting to do a long time, so I figure, okay, if there's gonna be a larger time interval in between them, I have to do this episode. So that's the one coming after the follow-up episode. So that may happen this month. If not, it'll definitely be by next month. And I think that's it. Or else I'm forgetting things. Oh, actually, this is just a real minor thing. I'm curious. One fan emailed me about that notice I made in my birthday video about trying to get better software scaling from, so for like legacy legacy games so that the pixel art looks better, low resolution stuff. Well, he set up a petition he plans to send to NVIDIA and AMD. I'm curious how many signatures we can get on that. So I'll put a link to that in the YouTube description. I think it's up to around 250. I'm curious if we could get a few thousand. Because normally I consider petitions to solve almost nothing at all. But however, this is one of those problems where I feel like they're just like, maybe we could do it. I don't know, whatever. And so if they get a petition with like 10,000 signatures, I'm like, oh, maybe we should do something. Yeah, for people joining in, the way this works is I'll answer questions that were asked to me ahead of time on Reddit. And then after I get through those, then I'll start taking live ones from the chat. And then I get back to work so I can finish the video. Let's see. So yeah, if you're in the chat, you have questions, you're gonna have to wait a little while, but. Okay, so I'll get started on the questions then, because I can't remember anything else that important, and I don't have that nagging doubt like, oh, I know there was something. I'm not remembering anything. So, okay, so questions. Hey Ross, my apologies if this has been asked in a previous chat. Well, see, this is the #1 question here on the Reddit thread, so this is why I set that up, because I figure if there's something I keep getting asked over and over again, and a lot of people want to know it, then fine. Yeah, I just didn't want to repeat the same things for just one person every time. So, in the unlikely event making YouTube videos is no longer a viable option for making a living, what would be a few industries you consider looking into? Man, oh yeah, follow-up question. Has the recent YouTube ad issues caused you any problems? I'll answer that one first because that one's easier. I don't know. Best I can tell, no, because I think the new ad stuff going on with YouTube happened just as I was releasing Freeman's Mind, which is the most popular video I've released in years. So, of course, I got a little bit of a surge for that. So, I'm not sure. Maybe I got hit, but that got such a surge that I haven't even noticed the difference. In the past, there have been times where my page just drops in half, like over a couple weeks. And then just kind of stays there. That's happened at least 2 or 3 times. like on my Begathon video, I sort of graphed more or less how that's gone. So maybe they've already hammered me too much that like, oh, well, they're just pounding everybody else now. And I'm just still floating where I was because I got beat up early by YouTube. I think part of it is I'm not, a lot of the videos I make aren't super controversial, or if they are controversial, they're about weird things, not, you know, global news sort of thing. So, and I get the feeling that's what they're trying to crack down on. Yeah, can't have that, you know. can't have people talking about things that could be important. So yeah, that might say more to my channel's content than anything else. Let's see, and okay, if YouTube is no longer viable, man, okay, so I guess, see, this gets more complicated because I'm with my girlfriend now. If it was just me, I could have a little more flexibility. I mean, my degree, I'm probably getting a little bit older for that to be an optimal career path with criminal justice. So I'd probably I might go back to school, well, if I could afford to. I don't know, I've had some, well, okay, my fallback job has always been kind of computer repair. You know, building and repairing systems for some shop. I mean, however, my understanding is, and I don't mind that work. That was not, out of all the jobs I've had multiple jobs doing that. None of them were that bad. That was definitely something I could do again if I needed to. However, my understanding is that's getting more and more rare and harder to get jobs doing that now. So if I couldn't get a job like that, I don't know, I might see what stuff is available. I mean, I don't know, it might be worth going back to school, like not a full college degree, but like a community college thing or something. I don't know, I might have interest doing stuff with electricity, like an electrician or something like that, where, you know, within a couple of years I could have, again, I have to look at the job market, see what's available. I'll say this though, I've thought about before, if I hadn't, like, you know, had been able to, some success if I wasn't doing the videos, and if I hadn't met my girlfriend, there's a real possibility I might have sought out one of these intentional communities, like I mentioned in the Cult Tycoon episode, and just joined up with one of them. Because, I mean, the thing is, I want some sense of security. So if you're around other people who are sort of on the same page, it doesn't mean you'll have any less work, but at least you're sort of working for yourselves to a degree, and you can better respond to problems. So, I mean, I don't know. I think I'd have to see. Look, being unemployed and not knowing how you're going to pay your rent or buy your groceries, a month or a couple months down the line, that is a horrendous feeling, which I wish to avoid at all costs. So that's one way to do it. You see, some people are saying video production in the comments. Sure, if I could get a job like that, but I mean, most of my videos are kind of amateurish. You know, there's a lot fiercer competition once you start getting into just general fields like editing and especially voice acting and things like that. I mean, I'm lucky that I can kind of make all my own stuff, but if I had to compete against every qualified person out there, so see, part of the reason I'm able to do stuff is because I can add little unique touches to it and make my own thing that not everybody else is doing. But if we're just going on raw technical competency, I might not be able to make it doing something creative. So, yeah, hopefully that's not something I have to figure out for a while. Let's see. Okay, so next question. Hey Ross, many years ago you made a video about chasing pigeons or something. What was the story behind the video? Will you ever do live action videos featuring yourself outside on your channel again? Well, first off, the name of that video is Pigeon Hunter. You can look it up, it's on the channel. First off, that's not me in the video. I was directing it, but those were some guys I was friends with at the time. When I was in school in Pittsburgh for a while, see, I had this pattern of going to school for a year and then working for 6 months to a year, then going back to school for a while. one of the assignments for this video class was to make a fake advertisement for a show. And, you know, you kind of have to work with what you have around there. And there were just pigeons all over the place. So that was one idea I had. So we're basically just making a fake TV promo for a show. And so I made that, and you know, got some friends who were in the class, and they acted out the roles. I got them to dress up in overalls and wear hunter caps or something. I thought that'd be kind of fun, little thing. And that ended up coming out pretty decently, to the point that I wanted to save it and put it up later. And I will say that the dead pigeon at the end, that was not intentional. That was not part of the original script. What happened was the big guy in the video accidentally stepped on one in between takes. Like, I was just adjusting the camera and he was just walking around not paying attention and just stepped on it, I guess broke its neck or something. And so, you know, I wasn't going to put that to waste. So at the end we had them holding the dead pigeon. So that was not part of the plan to go out and kill the pigeons, but since it happened, I roll with it, you know. I figured more production value. These pigeons were not smart. I mean, in fact, I was almost worried that they wouldn't run when the guy chased them. I mean, I think they were almost getting used to it by the end of the shoot. So as for more videos, hey, you know, I'm not married to any one medium. You know, as long as it's enjoyable enough, I'd be fine with doing live action stuff. The big advantage of digital is I can kind of do it without necessarily having to have reliable actors or people in the same location with you, or get permission to where you shoot or anything like that. There's a whole list of other problems that come up once you start doing live action stuff. But I'd be fine with doing live action videos. I've done couple others. Maybe I'll get those up eventually, or doing kind of machinima stuff. So yeah, I'm pretty open-minded about that. I don't have any necessarily plans for that, aside from maybe more of the Ross Rant stuff for live action things. But you know, it's a possibility. But I'm pretty busy with other stuff at the moment. Okay, most of your watchers want to see Freeman's Mind, and for good reason. Do you have fun making it though? Is it something you're looking forward to doing despite the kind of pressure the fans may put on you? Does it feel good to get back in a domain that essentially belongs to you in a sense? Well, I'd say, okay, this probably isn't what people want to hear. I'd say out of all the videos I work on now, Freeman's Mind might be my least favorite. Just because, you know, I went back in, and once I got everything set up and started doing the episode, like, it was just, it felt robotic. It's kind of like an assembly line. Like, okay, 10 seconds here, think of something to say, okay. And then I'll have like a couple lines I kind of want to work in once I get a gap in the footage, and then like, okay, have another 5 seconds. Okay, then a gun fires. Okay, now it's very just kind of clinical and methodical there. Whereas Game Dungeon, and especially the animated stuff, those feel like projects. And Freeman's Mind feels more like a job. That said, it's not that I hate doing it. I mean, look, Freeman's Mind, hands down, beats every hell job I've ever had. So I don't consider Freeman's Mind a hell job by any means. However, it is competitive with, like I said, the PC repair stuff. Like, if I had to choose between make a Freeman's Mind episode or just, you know, repair and build computers for several hours, I don't know. Those would be kind of hard for me to pick. But in a vacuum, obviously the fan support, I knew once I did the Begathon video, I felt like I had to continue it, because, you know, with that kind of support from fans, I felt like I owed it to everyone. So basically, you guys are responsible for Freeman's Mind 2 continuing. Again, I kind of prefer to do kind of more creative projects, but if I had, you know, enough money, I didn't need to worry about anything, and I didn't feel an obligation to fans, there's a real chance Freeman's Mind might not continue. I would keep making videos, but probably not Freeman's Mind. But, you know, I still try to I still don't want to half-ass it if I do it. I mean, I'm just gonna. What if I was worried about? I'm not worried about doing it because I figure I've made it this far. If I've made it through all of Half-Life 1, sure, I can do Half-Life 2 because it none of them felt like, oh, how am I gonna do this? I'm gonna run out of things to say. I did feel like that in many past episodes, but the fact that I made it this long and this far makes me feel like, yeah, I'll come up with something. I don't always know what I'm going to say, but I at least can be able to figure out something. So I'd kind of rather be doing other things, but you know, this isn't a vacuum. You know, you guys are part of this too. So, okay, let's see. Ross, how does your sleep schedule work? I only ask because you start these video chats at 4 or so Eastern Standard Time, which is great for us on the Eastern Seaboard, but not so great for you at 10 in Poland, especially with the lengths that these chats can go on for. In short, how do you get enough sleep when it isn't crunch time? Also, as an insomniac myself, do you have any preferred methods for getting to sleep? You know, the time of day does certainly accounts for my energy levels in some of these chats. Because if it was earlier in the day, I'd be much better. I have more energy now because I did sleep later, as I was up working later on the videos, so I have a little more energy now. But my sleep pattern is highly flexible. It's pretty much been that way ever since I had to break bounds on normalcy in high school to get papers done. Lately, I've been trying to adjust it towards a more normal pattern because I have these neighbors that like to drill or hammer in the morning. So, you know, that doesn't help for trying to get sleep in. I mean, it just varies depending on what's happening. It's very adjustable if what I'm doing. Yeah, it just depends on what's going on around me. I mean, I do like to get some daylight time in so I can go out and stores are open and everything, all things being equal. But, you know, I was doing evening shifts for when I was doing security guard work and when I was working on the phones. It wasn't really an issue for me. So, I do like being able to block off sun, though, if I've had enough. So that is, I have my limits of that. As for insomnia, I occasionally have that, but it's pretty rare. Usually I just do things until I'm exhausted. If I don't have that luxury and I know I need to sleep, I guess, well, yeah, try to exercise each day. Try not to have sugar or caffeine. That'll make a big difference. And if you're really trying to get to sleep and you can't, in my experience, it's not worth fighting it. Just get up and do something. And maybe you can salvage a little bit of sleep before you have to get up, you know, for work or something else. Really try. Basically, if you feel like you can't, if you're not sure if you get to sleep or not, try it for like 15, 20 minutes. If you really feel like you still can't, get up and do something. Until you get sleepy again. Sleep, unless you have a medical problem, sleep is one of those things. It eventually self-corrects. You know, oh no, I missed all this sleep. You know, don't worry, your body will help remind you as time goes on. Speaking of which, I probably could have had the video out today, but I decided, you know what? I think you guys will forgive me for being a couple days late on the videos. I'm just gonna sleep instead. I get sick of doing the all-nighter stuff. I mean, all-nighter on a normal sleep pattern, so. Hey Ross, what age did you start making video content? Did you ever think that when you were a teenager you would have your current job? Okay. Second, I have to ask, do you find it creatively limiting working out Freeman's mind? Yeah, kind of. As you can only really write in terms of dialogue, not the story, which is set in stone by the game. So, and then working backwards, okay. Yeah, no, I never expected to have this as a job as a teenager. In fact, I've always assumed that, like, creative stuff, it would be too competitive, too, what's the word I'm looking for? Long shot. Too much of a long shot to try and make it as a career. So, I mean, I always had an interest in it, but but that was before YouTube existed when I was a teenager. So, yeah, when I first started making video content in high school, I wrote a full script for a movie that I was hoping to get filmed. I think I saved up and got a real cheap camcorder, but one of the problems I ran into is that, reliable actors, people say they'll show up and they don't show up. And that kind of that in school kind of killed the movie from going further. This script wasn't looking back on it now, I mean, it wasn't the best. And I've cannibalized a little bit of it here and there in parts of Civil Protection. So it's not a great tragedy this one wasn't made. This isn't like the movie I'm working on now. But later, I think I did like sort of a, geez, what age was I? I guess this would have been like 2000. I don't know, maybe like 20 or something. I think I did like a frag video or two. I still have those. I would actually put them up, but they use copyrighted music, so I don't even want to just risk putting it up. And then the first real kind of creative video project that I can remember, I mean, I think was kind of oh no, I guess Civil Protection I did later. Okay, so I did that stuff like the Pigeon Hunter in college before Civil Protection. But yeah, Civil Protection was, that was the appeal of machinima to me, is that I can make all this stuff without having to have reliable actors. You can sort of do it all yourself, even though that takes forever. But yeah, I guess those little shorts that I did, I had done a whole lot of audio editing before that, just tinkering around with sound effects or music, filtering things out or splicing tracks. So I wasn't completely out of my element once I finally got into video editing. And if you understand audio editing, there's a lot of crossover of that into basic video editing. So yeah, I guess, so yeah, I don't know, maybe 18 or 17, I guess, when it started on the movie script that never got made. And I think I lost, oh no, I think the footage that got lost when my place got broken into later. It's okay, it wasn't anything that great. Okay, hey Ross, let's say a big company that has a lot of experience producing animated shows like Rooster Teeth offers you the people and tech to make the movie. But of course they will want to have control over how it's distributed since they invested their resources into its making. Would you accept that offer? Well, first off, I'd have to like the animation style and everything that they have. I might consider that for other projects. For the movie itself, like let's say they'll make it the way I want it basically, and get help. It depends. It depends how severely it would affect viewership by having their own system. Like if it's only through their website, through a paywall, and they're not going to give it that much publicity, I don't know. I might turn it down because that's my main goal, is I want as many people to see it as possible. So even if I could make a decent amount of money from it, if only just a tenth of the people are seeing it, that's not a good trade-off for me. Or if they were going to market it pretty heavily, but still distribute it their own way, I might be like, oh no, I hope nobody pirates this, because for the record, in case I ever have to shut my mouth contractually and anything in the future, anything I work on, I of course want you guys to see it. And as long as I can, pay rent and buy groceries for the foreseeable future, the monetary concerns for me are not that big a deal. So, I mean that part is a big deal, but anything past that, no. So, if I'm ever contractually bound to say, I can't say what I actually think, now before that even exists, you can assume that it's okay to go watch my stuff, even if you have to pirate it, you know, my stuff. Obviously, I can't speak for everyone, but so yeah, I don't know. It depends. But I would consider that for other ideas, ones that aren't as like all encompassing as the movie. I mean, because I have lots of shorts ideas though. They'll be fine with getting help with, and they can distribute it how they want. Or hey, maybe I could have have the thing where they distribute it however they want for 5 years, or hell, maybe even 10. Then after that, it returns to me, and then I can distribute it however I want. I'm fine with that. So. Okay. You said long ago that you do a video on EA and evilness. What happened to that? That was kind of less coordinated. Essentially, the first half of that is in the Zany Golf episode, and the second half is in the Game Dungeon follow-up episode, the first one. So I still plan on doing more, not with EA specifically, but they're definitely a part of that with trying to stop the games from being killed. I have a lot of plans. I'm hoping to get underway on that. In fact, I'm not covering another EA game on Game Dungeon until I have something set up. So every time the EA logo comes up, I want to be able to say, oh, by the way, remember, they kill games. And then I want to have a clear plan of action saying, go here and do this. And unfortunately, just writing letters to them isn't going to be enough. I need to be a little more coordinated with what I'm doing. So that's kind of in limbo for now. So yeah, but the follow-up episode is where I talk more about that. Really, the fact that they in their history, you know, that they just stole a guy's code. Yeah, they just stole it, and that became the bedrock of their franchise. Kind of establishes things, you know. Hey Ross, with Freeman's Mind, you took certain comedic liberties in order to help the series feel a bit less on the rails. Kind of like the Dance Rave Programmers, the uplink demo using no clip to get around obstacles. Can we expect more of these? Yes, I have one. There's one I knew if I did Half-Life 2, I was going to have it. It'll probably be in episode 3 or 4. I don't know. I'm just guessing where it's going to end up, but there was one part I knew there's no way Freeman wouldn't do this, given his history. I mean, some things I want to do, but the game's just not going to let me do them. And there's other things I can kind of work in there. So I have a couple things like that. Not a whole lot that I'm thinking of, though. Because, I mean, the more ambitious, the more it becomes like a game mod. And if I'm going to that level of modding, then I'd rather just make something like Civil Protection or work on the movie. So, okay. All right, Ross. A lot of times you've given examples of mechanics you dislike in certain games, like overly spongy enemies, respawning enemies, and turn-based combat. When it comes to mechanics in games, which are ones that really resonate with you? As in, what kind of systems do you come across to make you think, oh yeah, this is going to be a fantastic game? You know, I'm not sure if there's any one I can single out. I mean, you kind of have to look at all the parts. I mean, and again, I want to emphasize for the record, just because it has turn-based combat does not mean it's a bad game. It means it's not for me. That's all it means. I mean, yeah, obviously having real-time combat for games that even have combat. You know, if it's a graphic adventure game, I'm not expecting any combat, but you know, the quality of the puzzles and the writing and the theme is real important. If it's a, you know, real-time strategy game, I'm hopefully going to want to have a bunch of units. Or if it's a first-person shooter, I want enemies that aren't bullet sponges, like you mentioned, that can kind of go down a couple hits. It just depends. I mean, because for me, it's the game and the atmosphere and just the whole package rather than one mechanic. I know I'm going to like it. You know, when I think about the games I've covered on Game Dungeon, one that really grabs me in terms of mostly the gameplay, or a lot of it is the gameplay, is Dungeon Siege. And so it's like a party-based real-time action combat game. That's a lot of fun. And also, I I really loved how, you know, everything's continuous. Like you go from one town to the other, and then when you stop in that town, that's a big deal. You know, like you're waiting for that town. You've been looking forward to it because you're overflowing with loot, stuff like that. I really like that mechanic, and I haven't seen that really duplicated since. Let's see. What's the... Okay, see, I got distracted by the chat. Okay, yeah. So I can't think of any one thing, because sometimes it's the theme more than the gameplay too, because sometimes it can be generic gameplay, but I really like the theme with something otherworldly or a survival thing that I can dig. But yeah, I can't think of any specifics. It's really dependent. Yeah, or a racing game. You know, I'm gonna want a lot of interesting areas to look at in a racing game. That it varies by genre and the game. So sorry, I don't have much good answer for that one. Ross, do you think that particularly toxic gaming communities can contribute to a multiplayer's game demise as much or even more than poor management on the developer's part? I know, and he's mentioning the game Toxic, which I haven't played, but it looked promising. I tried to play it, but other users kept harassing me simply because I was a newcomer. Absolutely. The number one game like that for me has been Zombie Panic. It's because there are people using hacks on that game. And even before then, there was this griefing clan setup. And this is, see, one clan in a giant game, like let's say Overwatch, there's a clan causing you problems. Okay, who cares? Because there's a million players in that. But you know, if it's a smaller player base, one clan that's really well coordinated to cause problems, they can cause a lot of problems. Like they would just kind of wreck things so that you couldn't accomplish the objective. And this wasn't griefing in a funny way. This was just like the really kind of mean-spirited kind. And that kind of got me to stop playing it. That and the hacks. I mean, so it can kill it. Now, if it's just that it's just that the game itself is still fine, but it's just the way they conduct themselves to you is the problem. Like you can still have then I'd say that's a lot more recoverable, because hey, pretty much every multiplayer game I do, I just mute the voice chat. I just assume it's going to be terrible and not bother with it. I mean, if it's just nonstop insults, maybe you can block that too. I don't know, but and still have an enjoyable game. But yeah, it can bring a game down. I'm trying to think of some others. Let's see. It's mentioning Tux. Yeah. Like for a while, I did some of Warcraft 3 multiplayer, and boy, there was some toxicity floating around in that. But you know, when they weren't outright sabotaging, then it wasn't a problem for me. You know, I would just like, okay, these people are scum, but whatever. They seem halfway competent, so good enough. But there'd be people like, I'm going to attack your base unless you start making this unit, and then they do it, or you get, and then so yeah, I'd say you can't save against sabotage, but if it's just trash talking, there's ways to filter that out so you can still enjoy it. Okay. Ross, would you ever consider doing a game dungeon on the Dungeon Keeper series? Yeah, I consider it. Okay, I know this is a game I should have played, but I never got around to playing Dungeon Keeper. I know the premise. A lot of people, it's one of those I should have played by now, but I haven't gotten around to. So that's still on my to playlist to eventually get around to it. It does have kind of a unique premise where you're playing the bad guys trying to lure heroes in so you can kill them. So, yeah, it's a possibility, but I have to play it first. If Valve contacted you to say Half-Life 3 was done, but they wouldn't release it until you finished Freeman's Mind for Half-Life 2, would you stop working on the movie and risk the wrath of every gamer on the planet? I think my first question would be, you know, why didn't you mention this sooner? But I think I probably would postpone the movie under the condition that I got enough support, I guess financially or something, that once I was done, I could just go completely dark for a year or two and do nothing but the movie, to the point, and not only be able to support myself, but be able to recover financially from the views that I had lost permanently during that kind of blackout period. So basically, I would kind of need something in return. Otherwise, I would just kind of keep going on my own pace. But you know, if the entire internet thought that I was the entire roadblock to Half-Life 3 being released, I imagine I could get that support that I needed. You know, it's like, I don't want to hold it ransom exactly, but I just kind of want to make sure I'm covered once it's done, because, you know, I kind of see Freeman's Mind like steroids. I'm not going to be able, those are going to get more views than anything else I think I'm going to do. So, and that's fine as long as I can make ends meet, but, you know, I kind of want to have a plan for after Freeman's Mind too, is the thing. So yeah, I'd be willing to drop everything else and do nothing but Freeman's Mind too until it got made. I lost my train of thought. So let's see. Ross, have you ever seen Antoine Deluc's Gorgeous Freeman series? I think I browsed some of it back when I was working on Gorilla Gong, and I don't know, it looked a little spastic, and the thumbnail of that is just like this big kind of butt shot of Freeman in a diaper or something. And I was thinking, you know what? This isn't striking me as the sort of thing I must see. So I don't know. It just made me not want to get into it, even though I know it's really highly rated. A lot of people like that, but it's the sort of thing where the initial impressions just kind of made me think it's not for me. You know, showing a grown man's butt like as your thumbnail, that's not going to make me want to jump towards the video. Is the bottom line. So plus, I was kind of sick of Freeman at the moment too. I think when I first heard of it. Okay, this person's asking about when I expect Freeman's Mind 2 to be completed. I don't know, guys. Yeah, okay, in general, I'm not going to give time estimates on anything that aren't a month, that's more than like a month or two out, just because I don't know, and it's just setting myself up to screw up, and everybody's expecting it to be done by then. I mean, geez, I'm over a week behind where I wanted to be on the next video. So, and that just, I hate that. I hate that so much, falling behind and everything. So, I don't know, you know. Are you working on new civil protection episodes, or at least planning any? No, I'm not. The time I would be doing that is going into the movie instead. I can consider it for after I finish the movie, though. Okay. What is your method for scaling up low-resolution retro game video capture without quality loss? I'm trying to upscale 320 by 240 SNES game capture footage without it looking terrible. Okay. Well, there's two things I do. For usually the low-resolution one, you want to record using red, green, blue mode. See, almost all video capture doesn't do that. I'm not an expert on this, so I may get my terminology wrong, but I think they use like YUV or is it I always get the terms mixed up for color spaces. But you want RGB mode. If it doesn't do that, you're gonna have some color loss when you record it. Look at things like reds and, you know, kind of lime greens especially. Because that'll desaturate your color right there. Once you've done that, now if you're recording this off an authentic Super Nintendo, good luck. You might have to look up what's the best method for that. But the other thing is, once you do that, see, that's recorded at a real tiny resolution. Like in DOS, it's usually 320 by 200. Yeah, okay, somebody's saying in the chat, YUV420 is what most capture devices use, it says. And see, you get color loss from that. And that's what most output's gonna be on YouTube. But at the same time, you gotta maintain that chain. Otherwise, it's gonna look worse as you go on. Especially for the next step, where you say you wanna blow that up to 1080. Well, that number's not gonna divide evenly into 1080. So what I usually do is I run a script where I tell it in virtual dub, I tell it, okay, like let's say it's 320 by 200. If I multiply that times 6, it'll be 1920 by 1200. Okay, so then it's a blown up image, and then as part of the same command, I tell it, okay, now shrink it down to 1080. I guess that'll be about 728 by 1080. And that one, and when I blow that up, I use what's called a nearest neighbor filter or integer scaling. That's what that thing I was talking about at the beginning of the chat was. I'll be in the link. That maintains the sharpness of the pixels, and then I shrink it down using like bicubic or Langzos or whatever it's pronounced to 1080. So that one to kind of maintain the accuracy. So that keeps it pretty sharp, but then the right resolution. But yeah, so you want nearest neighbor scaling unless it's a real fuzzy image anyway, and you want to have RGB recording in order to get that. I know how to do that on the PC, and somebody was saying, or you were saying that, yeah, okay, he's doing speed runs and there's strict guidelines. I don't know, you might have to consult people, because you're probably gonna have to go through a different chain for recording from television or the Super Nintendo output. There's probably you're probably gonna need special hardware to do that the best it can be. I'm not sure what to advise for that. But for anything that's on the screen that you capture, like on a computer screen, that's what I go through. And that'll keep like the low resolution games looking pretty vibrant. Okay, I have a question about Game Dungeon. Do you plan to expand the series into longer length episodes, or do you want to keep them short, under 30 minutes? You know, I kind of want to, I guess, you know, for me, the ideal length is 20 minutes, but sometimes there's just too much to say. I mean, like with, which one was it? The Chosen, Well of Souls. I wanted to keep that a shorter one, but no, there was so many things I had to mention in that game. So I will say the longer it gets, the more I want to just chop that sucker down. So I kind of want to aim for about 20 minutes, but look, the one after the next follow-up episode, that one's going to be as long as it needs to be, because that game's going to deserve special attention. But yeah, I figure you kind of lose your audience super long, and plus it takes forever too for some of them. I mean, if there's something really worth talking about, I'm gonna leave it in there. But I always get nervous as I'm like approaching like the 40-minute mark. I'm like, oh god, this is getting too long. So I don't know. Let's see. You briefly mentioned Clive Barker's Undying in the previous chat. Any chances of a Game Dungeon on that sometime? Yeah, I plan to do it eventually. Though again, that's an EA game, so I've gotta get some other stuff straightened out first. But yeah, it's the inspiration for that was obvious, even though I replayed it in reverse order from Realms of the Haunting. Okay. Hey Ross, are there any indie games on Steam that have caught your eye or are possibly worthy of a Game Dungeon episode? Yes, in fact, I have such a giant list. See, a lot of these I haven't played. Once I get the website revised, I want to set up a special section of like Ross's game research list. I'm just going to list like every game that's caught my attention, either from screenshots or the description or something that I haven't had a chance to play yet. and I'll just list them all there. I can get a volunteer to help out, have links to the games, and maybe have them sorted by genre. And maybe I could have a quick thing to the side, like when I do finally get around to playing it, maybe I have a real simple system like Ross liked it, Ross didn't like it, or Ross decided to pass because of the gameplay style or the theme or something. Like, one's off the top of my head. Like, I recently played the DLC for The Final Station. I really enjoyed that game. And another one that would be an example of a past game was that I checked out from watching the footage. I think it's Serpent in the Staglands. Thematically, I was hooked. Like, I love the atmosphere and it looked great, but the RPG element looked a little too hardcore for me. So that's one I may end up watching a playthrough of, but that's the sort of thing I would put on the list. So I hope they get that set up at some point, because I have just hundreds like that. Okay. I was wondering how your life has changed since the Begathon video. You don't look much more relaxed. Also, what happened to the plan of using multiple editors for Game Dungeon? The Legend of Kyrandia video wasn't bad, but it felt like it was cut in half. Well, okay, I still do. Here's the thing for like how my life has changed since the Begathon video. That absolutely saved me. Like, you guys are kind of my boss now. I mean, more so than YouTube. But at the same time, like, as time went on, like, the donations would kind of go down a little bit every month. And that's okay as long as it doesn't hit below a certain level. And after that, I got to figure out what I'm doing. What am I thinking? So I guess that's it. I'm thinking back to the Robot Jobs video where they're talking about, like, or I was talking about the possible solutions, like, you know, the universal basic income or the, you know, guaranteed jobs that you can get by the government. If there was something like that, that would take the last amount of stress away from me. It's just like it's because I'm always thinking long term. As long as but that has absolutely saved me. Don't let me mince words here. That was an incredible stress remover, and it has given me an incredible amount of peace. But I just want to be just like set. You know, I like being prepared for many scenarios. You know, so that's what it comes from. And sometimes I just have this own personal thing where I feel like, oh my God, it's been so long since last video's been out. I got to get something out. I'm just always imagining everybody just kind of losing their patience with me and, like, you know, never wanting to watch this stuff again because it's been too long since the video. Which again is also part of my inspiration for the movie, because, man, if I make the movie, that's it. I've proven everything to myself. So it thanks incredibly for anyone who has donated. You know, it's again, I do not consider that your responsibility in any way, but I am in no way too proud to take it to accept the help. That's the best way to look at it. Okay, and now as for the multiple editors for Game Dungeon, okay, that's the sort of thing where I got I unfortunately bottleneck myself doing many different things. That's something I do want to look more into, although I had a lot of thoughts after doing the Kyrandia and the ski game, whatever it's called, Extreme Freeride or whatever. I feel like those weren't as strong, and I feel like part of it was definitely because of the games I was picking. Because some games, it's like Mabu, so that was half writing itself, a game like that. Whereas other things, I kind of have to find my hook in order to make this interesting and worth watching and talking about. Otherwise, I'm just some guy talking about the game, which is enough for some people, but I'm always worried the more videos I make like that, the more a newcomer is going to see that and they'll think, well, this is nothing special. It's just some guy talking about games. Whereas if, you know, something like Mabus or Baldi's, that's closer. I want people to come in like, what is going, or like, what is this? Because even if the game is perfectly normal, if that opens up the opportunity for me to talk about something else and just go off on it and make it interesting that way, then that's a good episode. So now I'm wondering if making more videos is even what I want to do, or if I should just keep making them only the sort of my best attempt at higher quality ones. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm going to do there. Also, for that episode, recording the footage was a huge time saver for the help on that. But for the editing, that was still, I mean, geez, I want to say at least 8 or 10 hours of editing on my part after the initial edit. So I'm not sure how much time that saved or not. It might depend on the person, but even then, for other videos where I'm kind of less concerned about the editing quality, like Dead Game News, I need to get more of those out. I'll definitely want editors, or if I can figure out something. So I'm still trying to figure out what I'm doing. You know, you'd think I would know by now, but no, I don't. All right. Okay, he's saying Freeman should recognize Barney. You know what? Where in Half-Life 1 is Barney referred to? And I think someone came up. Yeah, I saw one comment under this. It might be the fact that there wasn't one Barney. There were dozens. Every security guard looked the same, sounded the same, acted the same. So there's not one recognizing. So not recognizing one in particular sort of fits. That's kind of how I feel. I feel like, put it like this, I have very little respect for retconning, all right? I figure, and I feel like that's kind of what Valve was doing in Half-Life 2, where they're like, oh yeah, all these generic people, they're characters now, right? Remember? Like, I feel like you shouldn't retcon. You should either just start over or just go with what you have. Or just, you know, do like Star Wars and just sort of shove the prequels under the carpet. Like, it's like you're not saying it didn't happen. You're just never bringing them up now. You know, we don't need to talk about them. What are you talking about, prequels? So it's not that you're denying them. You're just pretending that it just sort of never come up. You know, if you made a mistake early on. I feel like that's the best way to go. Yeah, somebody's putting in the comments, retconning is like a sickness for writing. Yeah. I feel like work with what you have or start over. I have more respect for a good reboot than retconning, you know, and or just moving forward and just, okay, well, like let's say, you know, that happened back in Black Mesa. Well, we're in City 17 now. Here are the new characters, you know, so I'm going by exactly what what Valve gives you in the original Half-Life 1. And somebody got upset because he liked the prequels. Well, I didn't think much of them. Sorry, man. So in the original Half-Life 1, Kleiner is mentioned in the manual. So he got you your job. So that at least alludes to a character. That is some attempt at characterization. So I'll respect that. But man, everything else, like, it's like a giant retcon. So I'm not having it. How come Gordon doesn't notice that Kleiner is older than he remembers? Kind of the same way you don't think of much of Doc Brown and Back to the Future looking that different. I mean, okay, it's a bald man with gray or white hair. Oh, it's a bald man with gray or white hair. Oh, whoops. And Freeman kind of knows that sometime it's bad. You know, I'm treating Half-Life 2 the way, you know, I would if I was there as Freeman. You know, like, it's very confusing. there's a lot of questions not being answered. So many to the point where you can't even attempt to address it all and just sort of keep moving forward and going along. So that's sort of. Will you ever do anything involving the game One Must Fall 2097? You know, that was before Moon Gaming sort of got canceled. That was going to be the next game I was going to do. And so, because I feel like, I don't know if that's enough to talk about for a game dungeon, but yeah, that's a game I could kind of talk about. So, man, you know, maybe someday I'll figure it out. I'll figure out the formula to talk about games that don't really fall within the usual game dungeon formula, but still comes out entertaining. Moon Gaming was just sort of an attempt at that, but maybe I can figure it out. I don't know. I'll have to brainstorm more on this because I'd love to talk about more games, but you know, I'd rather, ultimately what matters is making a good video. So I don't want it to. People are arguing in the chat apparently. I don't want it to be. I don't want it to be too kind of forgettable. Not that I won't make some of those anyway, but not there. Well, at least I don't want it to be on purpose. Is the thing. Well, I know that many people enjoy Freeman's Mind. And it did get more views. I was a little worried about the state of Game Dungeon. I know that many fans want Freeman's Mind, but I hope you don't plan to stop it. Could you confirm or ease, for lack of a better word, fears on how you plan to release videos? Well, unfortunately, something has to give way. I am not discontinuing Game Dungeon, so don't worry about that. In fact, Game Dungeon could go on after the movie and Freeman's Mind is made. So it's a pretty flexible format. However, I do want to get on, again, nothing official, but at least a monthly rate with Freeman's Mind. And I want to free up a lot of time for the movie. And those two are compatible because even though Freeman's Mind feels kind of more like work, in terms of raw time, once I'm set up, because the prep work really can take some time, getting everything right with the demo recording and just the NPCs behaving correctly. But once I'm set up, that can go faster, which means I could have having a couple weeks at a time, monthly, to work on the movie. Oh man, that's so worth it. However, you know, I still want to get a couple game dungeons out a year, so it's gonna slow down, I'm sorry to say. However, in the long term, don't worry. It's gonna stay good, I think. So, and again, I'm hoping to get a game dungeon out this month. May or may not happen, but I'm gonna get the game dungeon that I knew I had to cover when I started this series. That's gonna be the one after the follow-up episodes. So I figure if I do that one, okay, I'm a little more comfortable with taking a break from it for a while. So, okay, let's see. Have you seen the thread on Accursed forums about the possibility of you using the cinematic mod at any point for Freeman's Mind 2? Would you consider using it? Have you played through the game using it? And what's your opinion of it? I haven't seen that thread. You know, I looked into the cinematic mod back when I was working on Civil Protection. I think it was for Morning Patrol. Maybe that was looking at it, or on a rail. And at the time, what they did with the Metro Cops was not that impressive. And I was thinking, well, the Metro Cops are everything for Civil Protection. So I didn't actually want the contrast between these, you know, kind of normal Half-Life 2 textures versus super high resolution stuff for, you know, the buildings and the sidewalk and everything, because then it would look kind of worse. That's something I'm going to be wary of in the movie also. I don't want this huge gap in quality between the models and textures. So that just kind of made me dismiss it, and I had never really looked back on it. I mean, I haven't played through it. I know they change a whole lot, but then it scales how much you want to change. I might just leave it as it is, just because introducing new variables is, I don't know, not always a helpful thing. Or it might, see, something can, see, you got to be careful, because some things in mod packs, hands down, look better. Like, it's just, they took the texture that was kind of blurry, they made it sharper, put the detail in there, it's just better. And there's other things, well, it's higher resolution, more detailed, but then it kind of changes thematically. And I get the feeling from my viewer base, they want Half-Life 2, the one they know. So I don't mind doing some enhancements, like I like the motion blur and things like that, but I don't know, I gotta be more careful with that. And I don't know, before I did the first episode of Freeman's Mind 2, I experimented with the Half-Life 2 update mod and the 2006 copy of Half-Life. And I found the most recent one was kind of the best for the beginner levels for me, and just in terms of how it looked. Like, the update mod was a little more realistic for the beginner levels. And then later, and like in the later levels, they tint things green. I'm not having none of that. So I'll see. I might have to switch for which version of Half-Life 2 I'm using, depending on the level I'm playing. But I probably won't go for it. But maybe I'll look at the thread, see if it's worth it. Let's see. Yeah, like in the Half-Life source, that was the big reason I didn't update the beyond that, is because they changed the gun model from an MP5 to a M4. Well, that's kind of a thematic difference there, you know? So, I mean, that was for the high definition pack. Do you think that this whole haptic feedback malarkey will ever take off? Like with all these gloves, vests, and heck, the treadmills that give game feedback. Well, probably not that far, but it's hard to say. I mean, what's probably more, what I could see happening would be if they get really good at scanning hands, so that you could have this kind of Johnny Mnemonic or was it Minority Report interface where you can just take a window, you know, stretch it, move it over there. That'd be great. I bet you could increase efficiency a lot on some things with that. But the gloves, vests, and helmets or whatever, probably not so much. I will say though, I do not see it taking off. However, I hope it, I'm keeping my fingers crossed for the treadmills with virtual reality. If that can kind of take care of the motion sickness, oh man, I'm in heaven then. Because then I could be like, oh, let's go for, because you know, normally walking simulators aren't gonna be that great a game. But however, if you could actually go inside the world and walk around it, oh man, I'd want to do that every day. You know, like, oh, okay, let's go walk around Araxis or Azeroth or what's the world then? Well, yeah, it's got Vardenfall, or I forget the lands in Skyrim or Oblivion, but you know, that'll be, because it's just a totally different experience. You know, I would love that, and I think there's the potential for the treadmills to counteract the motion sickness. I do not know. I do not. It could very easily not be enough. So in which case, it may not go anywhere. But I'm hoping something can happen with the treadmills and virtual reality to just open up a wide variety of game worlds you can kind of walk through and explore. So I'll see. But I certainly wouldn't put any money on this stuff being, even if that takes off. Well, yeah, it's not gonna, I don't think it's gonna take off. I think, however, it could get enough of a niche fan base to survive. That's different between taking off. So I don't think it's gonna take off, no. Maybe the really good hand scanning would, but that's it. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, no, he does have a question. He enjoyed playing Unreal Tournament 2004 with me. I'm probably gonna be doing that monthly for a while, so anybody can join. Though you do need the full version now, which I think is like $10 on GOG. But hey, hey, you know, it's May, maybe wait for a summer sale. I bet you it would not surprise you if you can get that game for $250 or something if you wait. So let's see. Since becoming a content creator, do you think of any particular moments during your journey up to now that have caused a thought spiral or deep contemplation about yourself or your place in the world? Well, I was kind of having thoughts like that before I made videos, like, you know, what was Douglas Adams' Life, the Universe, and everything. I mean, as far as making videos, you know, I kind of look at it. I mean, some aspects of this have never struck me as completely real. Just, I don't know. It just, part of my brain just shorted out so that it never, like the fact that I've made a video that millions of people have seen, or like 5 million people have seen, like that doesn't register to me as real. And the thing is, that's reinforced when back a few years ago when I had the fan meetup at an amusement park, when like 6 people or maybe 10 people showed up. It's like, oh, okay, I can believe that many people saw the video. And but yeah, I kind of see this as like, imagine, well, like, okay, here's reality going like with waves and everything, like, you know, big events are over here and things that aren't remarkable are kind of flat. I'm just imagining like I was sort of where I was and I just happened to hit one of these reality waves that allowed me to have more exposure and everything than I would otherwise. It's just kind of like right place at the right time is the way to think of it. So I don't think that makes me special. I think that makes any more than somebody special for winning like a raffle, you know, with, oh, you had ticket number 87, you win the raffle. I think it's kind of like that, you know, there's not any sort of deeper significance to any of it. So, again, it's like the Begathon video where I said, what? Yeah, at the end with the quote, you know, what, 3,000 scotches later, you've been managed to keep this kid going without one repeat customer. You know, that's a little bit what it feels like. As for my place in the world, the only thing, which may go nowhere, but the only thing I hope to really impact in some level would be stop the games getting killed. I really am going to try and do something on that. I could possibly, if I play my cards right, there's the potential I can maybe change how the industry operates with that. Because I have some big stuff planned that I'm really going to try to go for the throat on this. But I have to see how the laws are real. Put it like this: it won't happen, or I really don't think it'll happen originating in the USA. The laws there just don't have the protections. The consumer protection laws just aren't there for it. But it could spread outward from other areas, because like if you can do something to threaten the whole European market of a major game publisher that just involves minor changes, you know, it'll make that happen. That could end up being a completely failed effort, but I'm going to do everything I can because there's games I don't want to see die. But I don't think I'm going to do anything really important with my life. Important in the global scale. You know, I'll do things that are important for me, and maybe some fans or viewers or everything might really appreciate some of the stuff I did, but I don't, in terms of historical significance, I don't think I'm going to do anything important. Let's see. Hey Ross, what do you think about the CSS issue that is happening on Reddit right now? I saw your sub is pro CSS, but do you have any thoughts on the matter? I have no idea what's happening. Okay, so it's pro CSS. I don't know. I didn't set it that way. You know, I'm thinking back. There's a web comic, Perry Bible Fellowship, where it has this guy wearing a shirt that says "scub," and then there's another one that says like, or like pro scub. The other one says anti scub, and then they start giving each other dirty looks, and then they break out fighting. I feel like that's what I'm witnessing right now. Maybe somebody in the chat will mention what's going on, but I mean, when I think of CS, there's two things I think of when I think of CSS. One, I don't even remember the acronym, but it's like a way to get your news by little feeds online. It's something I've never used, but I can understand where people might like that. And then the other one is Counter-Strike Source, but that one has the asterisk. I mean, not a colon. That one has the colon there, so it's probably not that one. And I wouldn't think the first one would be that controversial, but maybe it is. Somebody said, okay, somebody's saying that's RSS, Ross. Okay, so yeah, that's okay, that's RSS. So yeah, I don't even know what, so if it's not Counter-Strike Source, I don't even know what CSS is. Computer science studies? I don't know. Okay, so let's see. Cascading style sheets. It changes the style of subreddits. Oh, I have no idea. I have no comment on that. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's bad. I don't know. Okay. What was the most embarrassing thing that ever happened to you? We want the truth. I don't know. Maybe I've just... Nothing's coming to mind. I guess maybe I've repressed some of the memories. or I can think of ones that are like, would take a while to explain, and by the time I have, they're not that interesting. I mean, but like this, if there was something good, I would say it. Like, I haven't gone to like an open casket funeral and accidentally knocked over the coffin. I would let people know if that happened. But if I remember anything good, I'll say. But I'm kind of drawing a blank, except for a few things that just aren't even worth bringing up. So let's see. Basically with no CSS, every subreddit will look the same. I'm not heavy into Reddit, guys. Basically, I'm using Reddit because it's well known and people can vote on the questions. And it's a system set up for that. That's it. So if you're heavy into Reddit, your opinion counts way more than mine. Okay? Because you use it and this affects you more. So yeah, that's the best way to put it. Yeah, all opinions are not equal. I mean, because you say everybody's entitled to their opinion. Well, some people really are affected by some things, and their opinion should count more, I think. Ross, you made it clear that you're the kind of person who likes to put a lot of effort into making your content fit a high personal standard. For this reason, I find it weird that your game dungeon videos always seem to have a nondescript thumbnails on YouTube. Obviously, I could just be mistaken, but the majority of them seem to be just random screen grabs. Is this a decision you made on purpose, or is it just not something you prioritize? It's half me not prioritizing it as much as making a good video, and half I'm not even sure what I should be doing. Because, like, I don't want it to look like it's... Because some of these, I guess I don't want things to be, like, too clickbaity unless it's, like, really kind of fun to look at. I don't know. Like, I used to make these little banners for the different episodes, but I don't know, it just got... I would be so obsessed with getting the video out on time that I ended up not doing that as much. I don't know. I should do a better job, but I'm not sure what I should be doing. Like, if it's like, say, it's just some drawing somebody made and it's making this facial expression that I don't like. It's like, well, geez, I don't want that. You know, whereas a screen cap's usually pretty safe. I probably should do that to get more views, but I don't know. And the thing is, sometimes I can make something look good, but I don't necessarily know if I'm going to make it look good when it's like a little tiny window on YouTube. So I don't know. I should do something and maybe change some of the current thumbnails. But it's just been like, I'd rather, there's I do see it as having some importance, but not as much importance as I want, not knowing what I'm doing. Oh, and I skipped the question by accident. You know, I skipped some in the other chats by accident too. I think, or maybe I answered it and I don't remember, so maybe I better not bring this up. Ross, what are your thoughts about censorship in games? In what cases is it justified? And then he's mentioning Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, where apparently you shoot civilians. I mean, I don't know. I think it's kind of... I think it's the sort of thing where you put the label on it and that should be it. I guess I guess if you have to distribute it on a wider network, then you want to, like if you want to put a review of it up or something, then yeah, maybe you should censor some stuff where for that network, they wouldn't take this stuff even though you can still buy the game. Like some people would say it's overkill, but I did that for the second half of Still Life. Because I know plenty of my audience has seen worse, but I was thinking, man, I don't know, this one's pretty gritty. So it was a combination of it being pretty gritty and this being a Christmas episode. So I was like, man, you know, if people are hoping to tune in for just a nice, pleasant Christmas, I feel like I need to put some warnings up. So, whereas I might not warn as much if I was doing a Halloween one. Geez, it's been over an hour already. Yeah, that's like a thing. Okay, so yeah, I don't know. I don't. It seems kind of dumb for everybody to get involved. I mean, just have the warnings and like have enforcement for people being able to buy or play that stuff. I mean, I don't see much more to it. I don't have that strong an opinion on it beyond that. As long as they don't censor the good stuff. Yeah, like I don't know. It's I think I watched the end episode to The Walking Dead, like season 6, I think, where this character was apparent. I found out later this character was apparently supposed to use much more intense language than he did. Well, the thing is, I didn't even notice or have that much of a problem with it. It's like, oh, okay, well, whatever, because that show is so intense already. Oh, okay, we're going to censor him saying some bad language, but we're not going to censor the line executions from like the scene earlier. It's like, oh my God, my stomach was like churning for that part. It's like, so I don't know. I guess it depends what you're censoring, but it doesn't seem like much point. Okay, I'm rambling. I should keep going. Okay, this person asked like 10 questions, so I'm going to see if I want to pick any of these. Yeah, you can't ask this many questions, man, if you want to get them all answered. You got to pick like 2, maybe 3 at the max. In the Bip-Bop episode, you mentioned your old man. That means your father, usually. That's an expression. Yeah, okay. This other one sort of got answered. Something I really enjoyed in the Deus Ex Human Revolution video was the fashion lineup segment. Some of it had some pretty obscure jargon. I was wondering if you happen to know about that much about fashion offhand, or if you did a bunch of research on it for the video. I did a little bit of research because I didn't know what the Elizabethan collars were. I mean, I typed in like Renaissance ruffles and like until I figured out what that was. And I needed the right acronym for the icosahedral cuffs. I was just sort of taking a guess for the approximate shape of it. The materials, I mean, I knew different fabrics, so I was just sort of taking my best guess of what it looked like. I didn't really use much research for that. I'm trying to think of what else did I say. That whole thing was sort of like an illusion, because I'm really just describing specific parts, but I'm imagine if there's anyone who actually does work in fashion, they can understand how either basic or wrong some of the stuff I was saying was. It's like, here, I'll give you okay, here's a nail clipper. Notice the chrome, notice the chrome finish that gives a reflective surface and the ridged edges along here for better grip, along with, so you just take any object and just start describing it. And so that's all I was doing. And for the most part, or just taking my best guess as to what this looked like, with the Disco King or the Mexican wedding thing. So that was largely an illusion. Do you have a P.O. box where we can send you free swag? No, I still haven't set that up yet. Plus, I'm not overflowing with space. So I don't know. It's probably better to clear with me whatever you want to send first. Okay, this is the last question with 2 points on Reddit. After that, I'm just going to sort of pick and choose. When you did the uplink episode of Freeman's Mind, how much harder was it to record in Gold Source Engine than recording in the Source Engine? I still feel dumb I screwed up the field of vision. It was a few extra steps. It was kind of equivalent to starting a new series for Freeman's Mind 2, because there's kind of quirks I needed to work around and figure out with the demo recording, but okay, somebody say, yeah, the swirl pattern Athenian sandals. Well, they wore sandals in Athens. Let's see. Okay, so yeah, and the queen bee thing, I was just taking my guess. Well, the sort of did look like a queen bee. So. Okay, yeah. So yeah, it wasn't that much harder. Okay, so I'm gonna go through questions that were sent to me. I'm just gonna pick and choose. So I'm gonna skip some because these were towards the bottom for being voted on. Then I'll go to the live ones. Can you recommend some good books? I read a lot more news articles and sometimes magazines and stuff than I should read more. Like the last book I read was the Freedom TM one. I read the Rama ones. Maybe people should recommend good books to me. I like stuff where things that are a little surreal, like kind of like little Twilight Zone-ish, or just we're like, in space going out into the unknown, or well, I've read World War Z. If it's like a good sort of apocalyptic or downfall of civilization thing, I like, or stuff that could be very predictive of the future. Hey, you can email me recommendations. rosswscott@gmail.com. Okay. Ross, spelled my name wrong. I need a little life direction right now. I got out of high school last year and I don't know what to do with my life. I don't have a job and I don't want to go into college just yet. What do you recommend I do? I would absolutely try to find a job. Doesn't have to be a good one or career related at all. Because the thing about, especially if you have a job you don't like, it really helps focus your mind on what you'd rather be doing. And you know what? You get paid while you're, it's like, hey, you get paid to figure out what you'd rather be doing with your life. That's what, that's the thing about, getting a job. So just try and grab whatever you can find, And if you hate it, you can quit, Yeah, nothing focuses what you'd rather be doing in life than a job you don't like. Someone's asking what I think about the tiny house movement. I don't know much about it, but I am all for having more affordable houses. I think I read that there are more houses. Geez, I think I read a statistic more that there's more vacant homes than there are homeless in the USA. Not that those two should necessarily match up 1-to-1, but that should say something, I think. I think I've even heard reports about them, like banks wanting to destroy existing homes because the market value was too low for them, rather than just let some homeless person live in them. So, not having to worry about where you want to live is incredibly important in life, I think. Where are you going to live? Okay. Okay, well, now we're getting down to the 0 point ones. Yeah, you gotta have more people who want that question answered, I guess. So that's what these videos are. They're kind of, I'm way behind in email, and I hope to catch up after I finish the next video. But these videos are meant as sort of a stopgap of losing contact with fans, because I can't always keep up with everything. So you know, this is to mitigate most of the damage from that. So if it's something a lot of people want the answer to or want me to talk about, then yeah, that's what these video chats are for. Oh yeah, this was a good question. Are you planning to create a video on the subject of how people have become sort of obsessed with 4K resolution and 144 frames per second? Well, the two thoughts. Yeah, I wanted to answer this one. Two thoughts on that. One, with the 4K resolution, I'm actually going to talk about this a little bit in the next follow-up episode. I'm happy with low resolution, but the thing is, I like my anti-aliasing. I hate that flickering and shimmering you get from when it's done poorly. And 4K is one way of handling the problem, because if you throw enough pixels at it, you stop noticing, or I stop noticing. So I'm kind of glad they're aiming for that, though I'd be just as happy with decent anti-aliasing. Just because I hate seeing the little flickering there when I play games. So, I mean, I've seen a 4K display in stores. To me, the difference between 1080 and 4K, it's not that big a deal. I mean, maybe it is for some people, but for me, it's not. Again, I'd be fine with 1080 if I have good anti-aliasing. So it's probably just the industry jumping on the marketing buzzwords. As for 144 frames a second, I say this as someone who used to have a 160 hertz CRT monitor that went up that high. Actually, geez, did it go up to 200? Well, the thing is, back then, I wanted a high refresh rate because I was doing the stereoscopic 3D Revelator classes where they switch in between each eye, so you get a flicker. So I'm really dividing that by half, and man, the higher the refresh rate, the better on that stuff. However, you know, once I went to an LCD monitor and I realized that this was 60 hertz and it was flicker free, I remember thinking, oh yeah, that's pretty good. Because I can see the difference between 60 versus 90. Maybe I can see between 90 and 140, I don't know. But it's not that big a deal to me. In fact, in some ways it's worse, because there's a lot of games where they'll be so fluid and then they hit something that it stutters for a little bit and it's like, oh man, it's terrible. And it almost calls more attention to that. I'm pretty happy at 60. I can understand if people want a lot higher, especially if they're like a competitive gamer. But it's not that big a deal for me. Despite releasing the videos at 30, which I like watching things at 30 frames per second, but I like playing at 60 if I can get it. Or you know, well, whatever, 45 without screen tearing. I would like it if they aim for 60 frames a second, but okay, so that's enough on that. Let's see, a lot more questions. Okay, now we're into like the negative questions. So, all right, so I'll start taking stuff from the chat. Let's try it a little differently this time. If you have a question, put 3 asterisks and then ask your question, and I'll answer stuff for a little while. Let's see. Yeah, with the anti-alias, yeah, there's a delay here, so I'm waiting for the questions. With the anti-aliasing, it kind of depends how far away you sit from the screen too, because you know, far enough, you don't need any anti-aliasing. I'm still eating beans, yes. I mean, that's not my only meal, but yeah, I do eat them pretty regularly. Usually I have them with onions and lettuce and tortilla chips. Do you have any favorite historical people that you appreciate, either on a personal level or a global level? Well, I like Teddy Roosevelt. He did a whole, I mean, geez, he started the national parks, the FDA, broke up a lot of the monopolies. You know, did a lot of stuff to help people and world and well, the country overall. But there's some others. Historical. Well, I guess when you get into philosophy, you can get into interesting ones. Like, no, maybe I don't want to get too much into that. Who are some other historical figures that like? There's a lot of unsung heroes in history, I know. Well, I guess Louis Pasteur probably did a whole lot, you know, with, geez, with vaccination and this just basic sanitation. You know, I've heard that a lot of the longer lifespans in more developed countries come from just basic sanitation than anything else. So. Would you consider hiring more people again to help you on the videos? Once I get caught up, and by hire, that means volunteer, because I still don't have that. Look, I'm doing okay. I'm doing okay. Thanks to you guys. I'm doing it. And for the last month, Freeman's Mind also. Like, if I was getting those kinds of views every month, I wouldn't need any donations. But, you know, I'm doing okay, but never know how long that lasts. So on a volunteer level, I cannot afford to hire people like for fair wages. I just can't. So did you know that some of us keep rewatching their Begathon video? Why do we like it so much? You know, that was the hardest video for me to write out of anything I've done, just because it was so rough for me to do that, because I hated getting into that position, but I felt like I needed to give it a shot. So I tried really hard to make it just kind of watchable as it could. Also, I pulled out all the stops because there's no monetization on that video. And I also put in like some of the better, more famous game music in there. There's Deus Ex stuff. There's Unreal Tournament. There's well, I started off with Dawn of War. So I've tried to put in the best music. Those are some of the best backgrounds I had. So I try to just make this as watchable as I possibly could. So I figured that this was sort of I figured I had one shot at this. I mean, of course I could do more like that, but good God, I don't want to. So. Yeah, and you know what? That Begathon video, that's really kind of future-proof, because that sums up all my thoughts on monetization and money and the rest of it. So yeah, it's like I said in the video, you know, there's only one type of person whom I really want to donate. You know, the people that could just spend thousands of dollars on something and not even notice, you know, because you know, they don't know what they're doing with their money. So yeah, I can repeat that. If you want to, if you have so much money you don't even keep track of it, absolutely sign up, do a monthly donation. You never have to think about it again. I'll keep making videos. What's that cloth in the background for? It's sound dampening primarily. What do you think of coffee? I very rarely had coffee. I mean, if I'm just on massive sleep deprivation, then I have it. But caffeine in general tends to sort of scramble your thoughts a little bit. I try to avoid. I mean, I do like chocolate, but I try to restrain myself. But normally, I try not to have caffeine if unless I really need to stay awake, which could be tonight. I gotta finish the video. Have you tried the Dolphin VR emulator? No, I haven't. I'll probably try that eventually. Ross, would you consider telling us about your political views, given enough people would like me want to hear a more informed opinion? Yeah, sure. I've tried to avoid this, but I've figured out a better way of communicating this now. My political views are, okay, here, let's start with the basics. I think the most important thing is the survival of humanity as a species. Okay? So you got to circle outward from there. And so then a secondary thing would be to just kind of a utilitarian thing, which would be try to meet as many bare minimums as we can. I'm talking like having food, a place to eat, not bleeding to death somewhere, stuff like that. So I don't have this strong ideological slant as to how we get there, but that's definitely the goal to get to, is the way I see it. So things that seem to take us away from that, I'm against, and seems to take us closer to that, I'm for. But there can be lots of variables because, hey, overpopulation is an aspect of that. Well, okay, now it's getting to overcomplicate. So yeah, we don't want people dying in the street, but we don't want overpopulation either. So it's to try to find as many sort of solutions to that. And so that's the most important thing to me. And that's more important than kind of everything. And see, part of survival of humanity is also, having some balance with the environment also, because we need that to live, It may not always seem obvious for your daily life, but we really do need a significant portion of that to live. So yeah, that's where I stand on politics. I think that's the most important. Like, I am not down with maybe mankind deserves to die. No, I'm not cool with that. Like, I can understand us kind of correcting our problem areas, but no, I mean, very likely not, but to the best of our knowledge, we are the most intelligent things in the universe. Again, very probably not. So that should count for something. And hey, we have the ability to save all other species if we wanted to. If there's an asteroid coming towards Earth, we could stop that if we had our act together. So that I think elevates us above all other life in some aspects, but not independent of it. So that's the thing to keep in mind. Other life is still very important also. But all right, I should get away from politics for now, because that could go on a long time. How long does it take you to make a Freeman's Mind episode with Half-Life 2? It's not much different than the first one. However, there's still things I need to figure out, like with the demo playback. I've only done one episode, like with the demo playback, and there's some stuff I'm gonna need to mod a little bit. So, it does take the computer more time because I'm doing it at 1080, but less of my time. And actually that may change because one person emailed me a mod or something that lets me record with an AVI limit higher than 2 or 4 gigabytes. That means I can have lossless compression, which is a big difference. So things may speed up a little bit on that. That means I don't have to have freaking 640 gigabytes for 10 minutes worth of footage. All right. I may be skipping a few, but How do you think Half-Life 2 and the episodes compared to 1? I kind of liked 1 better when I played it. See, I have to rely on memory now because I burned out the Half-Life portion of my brain. But I mean, Half-Life 1, you're just trying to survive, you know? And Half-Life 2, I remember when I played it, it felt kind of aimless. Like, what am I doing? You know, so... Well, I shouldn't tell you too much how I feel about it because it's going to come out in the Freeman's mind. You talk about enjoying what you do. Are you enjoying making the content you're doing at the moment as compared to making the movie? Yes and no. It's the pacing is the biggest thing. Like the faster I have to make it, the less I enjoy almost anything, because then it's just like grinding away. But when I can take my time, I like making the game dungeon stuff. Though, look, I'll be honest. If I had no financial concerns, I would want to make more creative videos, like either shorts that are funny or stuff like Civil Protection or the movie. That's the stuff I'd rather be making. But that tends to take a lot more work and time too. So most of what I make is a compromise, I guess. And again, I never lose focus how this is so much better than the hell jobs I've had. That never leaves my thoughts. I have not heard of Project Titanic honoring Lori. What is your opinion on DLC becoming free, coming with the game after its support ends? In a perfect world, the only paid DLC would be just stuff that you don't miss that much if you're getting it, and then they would just do expansions. I like expansions better. I mean, DLC for like a multiplayer game is a lot different than the single player game. I mean, that's the old way of doing it. If they added stuff, it would be free. And then I don't know where paid DLC started exactly. The first one I remember is the Horse Armor for Oblivion and Knights of the Nine, but I'm sure there were older ones than that. Hey Ross, ever thought about making Freeman's Mind Across the Universe for real to spice up the robotic feel of the series? Would make no difference, or almost none. The game almost doesn't even matter at this point. It's just the methodology. So let's talk about the ending to Helios 2. That's coming up. I will discuss that in the next follow-up episode. So hopefully within 24 hours. Your Twitch channel doesn't seem to be set up to accept subscriptions. How come? I don't know what I'm doing. Maybe I'll figure it out later. I mean, can you do that with the free one? I'm assuming yes. Hey Ross, should I discourage my son from becoming a drummer? Absolutely not, but you know, have them figure out, assume that they won't be able to make a living being a drummer. As long as you act under that assumption, no, of course you should become a drummer if you want to be a drummer. But yeah, as long as you act under that assumption, that's the most important part. What do you think of Blu-ray format for video games physical edition? Shouldn't developers start to use USB drives or compact SD cards so they can reach 250 gigabytes, removing all the hassle of downloading humongous patches? I think a lot of companies just want to get rid of physical altogether. But I don't know. Those might not be as cost effective. I think they've come up with stuff that's some custom optical formats that can hold way more than that. So it might be something down the line if they were to start using that. Or maybe it's here now, I'm forgetting the name of it, or hasn't gotten the same exposure. Stuff that, I forget, it was just really high. It was definitely in the hundreds of gigabytes, maybe terabytes. I don't know. For Unreal and Unity, that's not where I'm focused on right now with the movie. I almost feel like I'm gonna have to learn both to a certain extent and do a scene in each one. I'm like a test scene in each one to figure out really where I want to go with it. because I'm getting conflicting thought. I'm getting conflicting reports. Again, if you are experienced in Unity or Unreal, or especially both, feel free to give me your thoughts, particularly regarding animation. That's where it counts for the most with me. What are your thoughts on getting older? I work with a lady that has ALS. She's 85 years old, can't move, and can't walk on her own. That's rough if you can't do any exercise. I'm thinking back. This is back when I was working at the print shop. Oh yeah, this is with Metal Dave, I think, from the video. Or there was this discussion came up where I think it might have been Metal Dave. He was saying, once he reaches a certain age, like 40 or 45, he's just gonna kill himself rather than watch himself fall apart. And like when he was saying that, he was trying to sound like so hardcore with it. I mean, he had tattoos all up and down him. He smoked. And there was another guy in the print shop who was just kind of easygoing. Think of him like on YouTube. I forget his name. It's like his name is like Sexy Phil or something. Imagine a really laid back version of him, really optimistic. It's like, I don't know, for all you could play golf or something. Like he just had this real optimistic view, and it just sort of took the wind out of everything he was saying. I mean, I guess, figure out things in life that will still work when you're old, I mean, I imagine, assuming civilization hasn't collapsed, I imagine I'll probably be watching movies and playing games when I'm old too. So reading, listening to music, that's none of that is stuff that you have to be young to appreciate. So yeah, it is rough if you can't move at all, though. It's good to be able to get some exercise. Though who knows? Yeah, I think even in your 80s, it doesn't mean kickboxing, but Yes, that is an IKEA lamp in the background. Okay, now I'm behind a few minutes. Okay, this is just a cryptic question. Okay, somebody's asking, like, time-wise, how many days to do an episode. It varies. Like, doing a really relaxed pace for an episode of Freeman's Mind, they want to know how long it takes. Barring other things, see, I'm not always working just on that, is the thing. A really relaxed pace, which is mostly how it was for the first episode of Freeman's Mind 2. I want to say it's like 2 weeks. A very aggressive pace could be 2 days, maybe. So, but my life is just miserable then. Yeah, and I'm probably losing sleep. But do you have a Polish citizenship? No, I do not, but I have a residence permit. Oh man, see, this is one of those I wish I had. See, I'm not always good at it with improv stuff, but this has been a great question for me to prepare for. Are you thinking what I'm thinking? And of course, I'm thinking back to Pinky in the Brain by asking a question like that. I realized they used the voice actor from Pinky in the Brain to be Orson Welles in the movie Ed Wood. Ed Wood is a great movie if you like the kind of like a little bit smarter comedies. Have you ever gained Bruzev? I don't know what that is. Have you ever thought of making videos of Poland? No, not really. I mean, it would have to be something unique and funny, or something that I found worth making. Well, I did have an idea of like surreal videos for Poland. Like one I thought was to show this like sort of tour guide thing you know those exercise machines where people just sort of swing their legs back and forth? I was imagining life in Poland, and you like show this entire valley filled with people doing that, and just, geez, I'm thinking of this webcomic I saw where they're kind of showing this other country like Ethiopia or Sweden or Holland, and it's really obvious that it's not this country, and it's very strange what he's showing. So I think maybe something like that could be fun. Would you consider giving us a tour of your place? I don't know. I guess like it's kind of, I don't know. I'd rather not, especially with like the, yeah. Well, I mean, what am I gonna show? The mold growing in the bathroom ceiling, or probably not. Have you ever played Divine Cybermancy? I tried playing a little bit of it, but I sort of gave up on it after a while because I felt like this is like the game was giving me this vibe that this maybe wasn't going to be a satisfying experience, but there were boy, a lot of requests for that one. That is definitely strange, but it's one of these games that looks like it had a lot of depth of the mechanics, but they weren't maybe thought out so well. So I don't know. It was weird and interesting, but it was sort of lacking a hook to grab me. I don't like stuff that's too abstract. I mean, I like stuff that's a little abstract where, oh, what's going on? But if it's really abstract, I don't know. It's not my thing. Don't you feel like you are going insane living in a country where people don't speak the same language as you? Is it like living on an alien planet? Don't you feel like people are talking about you behind your back? Not really. I don't think people are talking about. I'm not a paranoid person at all for most things. I mean, for most things, there'll be a few things I can be paranoid about, like, you know, the script for the movie leaking or something like that. But the thing is, when I moved, most of my friends had just sort of moved to different parts of the country anyway. So it's like anyone I knew, okay, they're gone. Nobody to talk to anyway. So it wasn't that different, you know, because everybody's just fled. I've heard this is actually a pretty common issue for people as they get older, just lose touch with everyone. So that already sucked. So doing it in a different country wasn't that much more of a problem. Let's see. What are some other things? Oh, it's like living on an alien planet. The part that felt the most alien to me, I think, like I really feels like maybe I am sort of on an alien planet, was the hemisphere difference, the distance from the equator, because there'd be times, you know, it's like, okay, the sun is finally, in the summer, the sun is finally starting to set around 10 in the morning, and then by 3, oh yeah, you can see it right. 3 in the morning, you can see it rising again. That kind of felt more like another planet. Or the opposite in winter where, you know, it's not getting light until like 8 or 9. And then I remember thinking like, geez, it's 2:30. Geez, I better go get a run in before it's dark, you know? So that's kind of neat, that aspect of it, but. Ross, I'm reading Lovecraft in my literature class. I get now your Lovecraft comment in the final Freeman's Mind episode. You know, I didn't even stumble into Lovecraft till like after high school, really. Okay, I don't want to give too many details on Freeman's Mind. What are your thoughts on the gender spectrum? I didn't even know what that was until a few months ago. I don't have much to say on that. I mean, I'm sure there's lots of literature. I keep thinking, I saw a trailer for this movie, was it Flawless? It had Philip Seymour Hoffman dressed up in drag. And he's just like, I'm more woman than you'll ever know. I'm more a woman than you deserve. I'm more of a man than you'll ever be. And he's like slams the door. So I don't know. That's not really my thing, that sort of topic. So I'm unlikely to have anything insightful to say on that. Why not do more moon gaming like the April Fool's episode? Well, the April Fool's episode took a lot more prep work if I'm doing something like that, I may as well just do a game dungeon. What made you decide to use the original graphics for Freeman's Mind 2? Okay, well, for the 2017 version, definitely looked brighter, especially with like bloom enabled, than the original copy. So it was a little easier to look at. And compared to the updated, the Half-Life 2 update mod, that one had the lighting looked more realistic, but it also was darker for a lot of the areas. I figured, you know what, ultimately, these are kind of subtle differences too. And ultimately, I want it to look I'd rather have it look more pleasant to look at rather than more realistic. That's going to be my attitude about the movie too. But it varied on the levels too. I did not like the HDR effect for the most part because it was kind of neat if you exit from a building into daylight, but then it's like everything was like that. So if you, look at a lamp, how bright. Well, that might be that way for a camera, but not for human eyes. You know, so I found it caused more problems than it contributed. So I disabled HDR. But yeah, it's mostly just lighting stuff that I was noticing for picking out the most recent copy. But again, I can't use, right now, Half-Life 2 is in a broken state if you do the Lost Coast levels with bloom enabled, but not HDR. So maybe I'll switch versions for that. So I don't know, I'll have to see. Would you still? Okay, well, okay. Somebody sort of set me up, and it's been a while since. Hey Ross, is this the last question you answered today? Well, that was a good setup, but then somebody asked a good one after that. Would you still do video chats if you had, say, 10 million subscribers? Sure, why not? Although we might have to figure out I might only be able to do the pre-submitted questions then, because. Like, okay, let's go to the chat, and then just like, it's nothing but like a blur of text happening. So that might not be possible, but you know, then the sort of democracy would rule in that case. So, okay, I think I'm gonna, yeah, I think I'm gonna end it here. And cool, people are getting my age wrong. I think I'll keep my age a mystery. Let's see. Yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm gonna end it here, get back to work on the video, and I am going to try really damn hard to have it out in under 24 hours. So I guess I'll upload this to YouTube so everybody will see it. Or maybe, geez, do I want to do this first or the YouTube thing first? I don't know. We'll see what happens. You'll know if you're watching this on YouTube. Okay, see you later.